Let's go. Cool. Hey man, hey guys. GM.
What's
So,
up, guys? GM.
Welcome guys. Welcome to another deep dive. So today, another ecosystem hour. We are diving deep into Perps and Bribes. I think that's kind of the two topics that are heating up in Cosmos and DeFi right now. So I'm Dai and head of community at Glyphies, and I've got my co-host Simon, co-founder of Glyphies, joining me, and of course we have our special guest here, JB Carty, head of marketing at Levana. JB, great to have you here.
No, appreciate it. Looking forward to chatting, guys. Appreciate the work you guys are doing. Looking forward to launching the Bribes pool or whatever. And yeah, looking forward to a good conversation.
Nice. Before and Simon, you want to say something before we get into it?
I mean, nothing major. Just we'll go way back with Levana, like all the way back to the Terra days. I was there. I remember, the pre-days having I had the eggs, the meteorites even before, and the potions. I remember the cool stuff that was set up in the early days back on the Terra. And I know you guys, I think one thing that we share quite in common with Levana is being survivors through this market. You know, we've survived the Terra collapse and then had to navigate the Cosmos waters about where to build. And I know there was stuff with Say and there was a lot of similarities with figuring out how to actually adjust and position within the market despite all the challenges. So I think, I've followed that journey. I know Jonathan fairly well, and it's definitely been interesting to watch.
No, for sure. I wasn't actually around at that specific time, but definitely seemed like it was a crazy period. And yeah, everyone is probably still to some degree feeling some effects from it in different ways. But look, all any of us can ever do, like markets have also been pretty wild the last few days, the last few weeks, months. All any of us can ever do is just focus on building things of value that hopefully when the attention comes that people like to use. And that's, I suppose, what we're all here for and trying our best to do so.
Awesome. Nice. Just before we get into it, just a quick reminder, this is a live AMA, so feel free to drop your question, guys, for the viewer, and we'll pick up some questions toward the end. Okay, let's get it rolling. Cool. Maybe let's start with the basic. KB, for those who new to Levana, what's it all about?
100%. So Levana is essentially just a perpetual swap platform. Probably the thing that separates us from most other perpetual swap platforms is just in-kind perps. So we're on Injective, we're on Osmosis, we're on Neutron, and people can come with their INJ, they can come with their Osmo, they can come with their NTRN, they can come with their BTC, they can come with their ETH, obviously the wrap versions, and with Osmosis alloyed assets now, though that's another benefit, makes the process of opening a trade a little bit more seamless, or navigating between the different derivatives of these assets. And essentially they can come with those assets, don't have to exchange them into stables, and they can open perp positions with them. And similarly because of that, the opportunity to provide liquidity, and you can provide in-kind liquidity. So let's say for the Osmo market or for the INJ market or for the NTRN or Bitcoin or ETH markets, and you can provide liquidity in those tokens, and you can earn essentially from people's bad luck trading on the markets. And if we've learned anything reading Twitter the last few days, a lot of people have a lot of bad luck on the markets. Not wishing bad luck on anybody. People like to take their chances on the markets. They like to predict where the prices are going, and as LPs, you earn in-kind yield, because of the liquidity pools being denominated in these native assets, you can earn in-kind, single-sided yield paid from like real yield sources, no inflationary unsustainable yield in these assets themselves. Like, you know, it has its own challenges, probably in terms of like the way we've structured the markets. Like, you know, it has security benefits for us. Obviously, all the markets and liquidity pools are siloed, which means they're separate from each other, which means an attack on any individual market or liquidity pool does not affect the entire platform. But obviously there are like challenges also in terms of some markets are probably a little bit harder to fund than others.
I feel like that comes with pros and cons. Like from trading on perps, like sometimes you wish that you had isolated margin pools, and sometimes it's nice to have the freedom of like the cross collateral. You know, sometimes, you know, you're going long and you want to, you know, you're like, okay, cool, I want to increase my yield, and so one position's gone up, and you can use that to increase the yield on your other position, right? But then it goes against you if the whole market's correlated and going down at the same time, right? And you're all long on all your positions, your liquidation level can actually, right? Like your liquidation can get closer because everything, your margin is getting sucked into. So that's quite interesting, like the difference between like the cross margin and single.
Yeah, no, for sure. There'd be no, 100%. But Levana, all positions would be separate from each other on Levana. Maybe the thing I was referring to, and maybe I didn't explain it very well, is referring more to is like, let's say, the ETH market is denominated in ETH and liquidity is provided in ETH. So therefore, like, and there's a lot of ETH liquidity, like a lot of people hold ETH and there's a lot of ETH liquidity. So it's a little bit easier to fund the market, but we cannot take liquidity from one market and use it to fund like allow people as like the liquidity that would allow people to open trades on another market, if that makes sense. So some more popular assets generally will have better funded markets, if that makes sense.
For sure, that makes full sense. How do the funding rates work on Levana? Do you follow a like specific model? Like I know if you look at Mars, they have like a skew model, which means that it's you know, it takes a period of time for it to be negative before it shifts over, so you don't get like this flipping. How does Levana work? Do you do an hour? Is it 8 hours? How do you guys manage the funding rates and adjust?
Yeah, I'm not personally as certain of like the design, but on a basic level, high level, it's essentially trying to manage or balance out positions on the platform, as most funding rates are. So if a certain amount of people, or if the majority of positions or capital is open in one direction, funding rates are generally more favorable in the opposite direction, and vice versa. Like aside from that, I do not know the specific type of model, the modeling behind it, but that's the basic, as most funding rates, that's the basic premise, is just like it's to try.
Do you know if it's hourly? Do you know if it's hourly or 8 hourly? Do you know?
And we have, if we go on the platform, like, and you look at the top, I'm not sure exactly how often the funding rates specifically update. Like, I would have to check that. I can't even answer it, to be honest. I don't know.
All good. I'll have a look and tell you. Anyway, Dai, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think they pretty much explained what Levana is, and
8 hours, by the way. So it's 8 hourly.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's different on different every platform's got a slightly different model.
No, 100%.
So yeah, this one says per 8 hour period it's calculated.
Okay, cool. Cool. Maybe like what make Levana stand out, and maybe we can like ask around like why Cosmos, and because there are a bunch of blockchain to build on. So I think that's kind of a bit of mystery, and you know, we are here to try to really break down like all the benefits and of the ecosystem.
Yeah, so for sure. I think, man, like, you know, like Simon was saying there, Levana and like predates my involvement in the project. Started on Terra Luna, was possibly migrating to Juno for a while. So there's been a bit of a history of just having been in the Cosmos, being one of the kind of early participants, early projects. As Simon alluded to as well, like, you know, I'm aware there were like different arms to it. There was a bit of a gamification of DeFi that Jonathan was really excited to bring to fruition. But obviously, when things happened with Luna, there was a case of like, okay, I think a lot of projects, their treasuries, their funds were like decimated. Everyone was in the same boat. And then it's like, okay, like what can we do? What can we bring to fruition? What like is really necessary if we strip it back and go like, okay, like what would be one of the most valuable products we could bring to market, or Levana could bring to market at that time. And they decided to make it a perps, or like follow the perps route and just exclusively focus on building the best perps platform possible. In terms of like why Cosmos, I suppose it's probably drawn in by the early vision and drawn in by like the early innovation, the activity. Obviously, like we said at the start of the stream, even going back like 3-4 years, there's a lot of people who've probably taken hurt and taken knocks in a financial sense over that time, that maybe probably sucked a little bit of liquidity out of the entire ecosystem, makes it a little bit more challenging to build. A lot of the early supporters and big people who had like large involvements probably were hurt and therefore like unable to really lend their support the same way maybe some of the other ecosystems were. But look, we're all here. We're just trying to build, push forward. It's a great environment to build. Like, you know, the app chain thesis has its benefits in terms of people being able to create their own kind of isolated ecosystems, custom made for their specific specifications, but also probably has its challenges as well, like that maybe weren't foreseen in terms of like the fragmentation of liquidity, the fragmentation of user experience, which probably is sometimes challenging for DeFi projects. But I think, look, like the way Cosmos is moving, and even if you look at like Atom itself, and there seems to be a little bit more with Skip getting involved, seems to be a little bit more like leadership, if you want to call it, and maybe pushing things forward, trying to centralize the wrong word, but trying to like condense the focus, narrow the focus, and have less cook spoiling the broth kind of thing, and just getting to the point where it's like, okay, there's a group of people who largely the community trust to push things forward. And I think that will be, if providing it works in the right way, will be really beneficial. Yeah, but look, there's been challenges, but why we're here, obviously the tech is great, very customizable, allows people to create their own ecosystems if they want to, as in app chains. And we didn't go that route. We just deployed it on top of chains. But again, that's great with the Cosmos because IBC makes it very easy to shift liquidity across chains. But again, like shifting liquidity across chains is not the same as having deep liquidity pools. So it comes with its own set of challenges that, like, I think maybe the leadership that is coming into Cosmos might help solve. Like, you know, there's no easy solution, and there's going to be winners and losers, and there's going to be people who maybe their initial vision might have to merge into like being a part of something else, or might not make it to the end. But that's just the nature of entrepreneurship. That's the nature of innovation. That's the nature of working with these like evolving technologies. Is you got to try things. You got to see what happens. You got to try your best and be honest, be transparent, and just try and build things that people like ultimately and see where it leads.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this on the early days in Cosmos. I think the app chain thesis is correct, but I think the way that many people went about it was maybe a bit off. Like every project was, hey, let's build our own chain, you know, that this interoperable, like it made sense for some of these projects to have chains. And at the time, it was kind of a way for them to get funding because chains could get more funding than apps, right? If you build an app if you just build a general app, like there's obviously more to it than that. People like the customizability and these components, but very early on, I knew it was going to cause issues because there was gas issues, there was isolation issues. When you build an app on a chain, you benefit typically from the marketing, the growth, the exposure that chain has, the mind share. But when you build, even if you're building Cosmos, if you build an isolated app chain, you kind of somewhat isolated and segregated. You do tap into some of the mind share that's around the Cosmos ecosystem as a whole, but you have to really build your own brand identity, which you have to do with an app as well. But you don't benefit from like a Solana that has shared liquidity and easy, you know, ecosystem growth. And so I think Cosmos really struggled with that, where like you had these kind of islands everywhere that weren't really solid enough to attract like huge amounts of their own traction. A couple have, Stargaze did really well and some of these others did well, but somewhat they weren't substantial enough at the time for them to warrant having their own app chain, I think, and would have been better off on a monolithic, smart contract chain. And so we ended up with this issue of this fragmentation, which the app chain thesis were more meant for customizability and scaling, but a lot of these apps weren't at that stage yet. You have to hit product market fit, I think, before going to that next level. So I think that was really interesting, and it did around a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think like a lot of like maybe there's a lot of ghost towns that have been built, and through no one's fault or through no lack of effort, but it's just the nature of trying to do new exciting things is maybe they don't quite play out the way you would expect or hope, but you learn lessons from trying, you learn lessons from pushing forward, and hopefully you can take the better concepts of the ideas and they can evolve into something greater than even they were initially designed to be like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get back into, I guess, Levana. What you guys have built so far. So just the perps, what else are the features you had? I know, Dai, you've probably got an agenda for this, so maybe I'll leave you to dig into it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe before we dive into that, maybe some quick fun question, like maybe not so funny. Maybe maybe how did the market crash recently, like the wipe out happened recently? We saw that, and how did that affect Levana?
I suppose it didn't really affect us at all. Like, it's just business as usual. We are the middle layer where people can come and open trades, and the people who maybe got hurt the most are the people who were directionally incorrect over a certain time frame when opening the trades. And with any period of volatility, there are like some people who are incorrect. And like I was saying, if you look at the sentiment on socials, the narrative at the moment, there's like a lot of directional uncertainty with like some of the like lack of clarity around like the regulatory environment, and then obviously also with the broader macro environment, largely like. But ultimately, I actually saw a great comment today, and it kind of sums it up in one sentence: is like everything is always bullish for the orange coin. And it's like it's just like in the long term, like if you look back 10 years, whatever length of time Bitcoin's been in existence, I think like 2009, is like the long-term trend is like undeniable. It's just capturing and holding more and more value over time relative to almost every single other asset class, and even things like real estate, would be considered very valuable and very good at holding value relative to other assets, which they are. But Bitcoin, I suppose it's like mobility, it's ability for self-custody, the ability to transfer it, divide it, makes it like a better store. With all the things we know, like a better store of value than some of the other more traditional stores of value that people have experimented with over the years, like gold, silver, all these things. I think that as we're looking forward, it's undeniable the trend is going up, and that like the space will capture more and more value, and Bitcoin will capture more and more value. But I think when I chat to people, the market now is not the market 4 years ago, and the market 4 years ago was not the market 8 years ago. And things like there is only a certain amount of liquidity that will enter the markets in every period of time. And like the fragment or the dilution of the market in terms of the amount of tokens and the amount of chains that are now launching and available probably means that the dynamics of the market will not quite play out the same way. Bitcoin is continuing to capture more and more value, but maybe as you move down the chain towards like the altcoin the altcoin section, if you want to call it, or the altcoin charts, or the alternative infrastructure is maybe a more sophisticated term. they're probably struggling to capture value in a speculative sense, the same way they did maybe 4 years ago, where there was just
rotates, right?
Less
it
options,
rotates.
yeah, less
it rotates.
options. Rotation, less options to dilute. But then also, that kind of hurts development in the ecosystems to some extent, because that, like, it starts off as a speculative bubble, but then like the speculative bubble turns into a bit of a utility bubble, because the liquidity has to flow somewhere. And if people like speculate on the price of the asset, but the asset is indelibly linked to the chain itself and the ecosystem, they're just, as a byproduct, is more liquidity captured. And that's where Solana like has just kind of have been the clear winner. The token itself has experienced like a significant rise in value, and then as a result of that, all the ecosystem apps have been flourishing, because people are looking for a way to spend all this, or gamble all this newfound disposable income.
Yeah, we've seen that with a lot of ecosystems. Terra was the same. When Injective had the boom, it's the same. People are like, hey, I got all this Injective, I'm up, and then they look for ways to multiply it, and eventually it flips. The thing is, we talk about rotation, like the rotations happened a lot. Like, I've been around in crypto for a long time, and I remember like when Ant shares were, now Neo was, one of the top coins, and Litecoin and Power Ledger and all these assets that like right at the top that don't barely exist. They're barely a blimp on the radar, So it's always interesting how like some have kind of stuck around, but these narrative rotations, we have the short-term ones, but we have the longer-term ones as well. And just because something was relevant 5-6 years ago doesn't mean it's still relevant now. And that's so interesting how much it shifts. So even the giants of now might not be the winners of tomorrow. Like, what if the second biggest crypto in the space hasn't yet been founded? I think about that a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I think it is probably going to get like, I agree. But it's probably the more liquidity, the more network effects that are built, the more institutional adoption or rails that are built on top of the technology and built in certain places. And if those places are sufficiently scalable to be able to handle the demands that are placed on them, it just becomes increasingly harder and harder to probably drag the liquidity and drag the rails somewhere else. So it's like, you look at, like, let's say, where will the stable coins, and like there's multiple different solutions in the different places, but PayPal are building on top of, or PYUSD are entering the space. Stripe are bringing in stablecoin payment integrations. Like Noble are doing great work in the Cosmos in that regard. But yeah, it's like I think we're getting to the point where there will probably start to be some winners to some extent start to emerge. And it's where are the things being built that are solving problems that already exist in the real world. And for me, the thing I always say is like, that kind of baffles me sometimes, is I actually think the thing that like crypto and blockchain is most useful for, which is like international payments, which are incredibly fast and cheap, has still not even fully infiltrated mainstream. And I don't think I think we are like not early, but I think we are still somewhat early, as long as blockchain payments are still not the norm for international payments, and barring some sort of legislative restriction that stop them developing or stop them infiltrating more of the mainstream, or more like capturing a greater usage and audience. But yeah, we probably still aren't at the point where we have fully explored crypto and blockchain for the simplest, most obvious use cases. And I think though over the next few years we're going to see those simple, obvious use cases that solve clear inefficiencies in the way things are currently done start to really take hold and build on top of like these rails, like these like DeFi, Web3, crypto rails that are obviously far more performant first of all, and then far more beneficial to the end user. In terms of like, first of all, cutting out the middleman, so like you don't have to go to Western Union or the bank and pay these ridiculous spreads on, or these ridiculous kind of fees on top of your transfers just for the privilege of using their outdated infrastructure. And then things like DeFi, where like probably we're going to start to see things like LP markets for Forex, as in like there's going to be more stable coins than just like than just dollar. And you're going to have like dollar euro LPs. You're going to have like €1 or $1 LPs or liquidity pools. And essentially, rather than you just going and exchanging a currency at the Western Union or at the bank or somewhere else, essentially you're just going to exchange it on chain, and the user will capture the fees, and they'll be lower overall for the end user, and the middleman will be the user. So it's overall just going to be more beneficial for the normal person, you or me, are going to be far more involved in the maintenance and far more involved in like deriving the benefit of all the financial infrastructure and the improved efficiency of the financial infrastructure that will be made possible by DeFi and blockchain.
Cool. All right. So I think that's a lot. So maybe we can get into like what's coming next, like what are you cooking behind the scenes and all that.
No, for sure, man. Like we're super excited, obviously, to be partnered with you guys and to launch the Bribes pool. Just everyone playing their part. You guys are building this nice platform, or building this nice integration that allows communities to directly reward the users, to reward token holders, reward people who provide value to the protocol. Obviously, in terms of like LPs, the ability to swap between, as we touched on, like native ecosystem tokens or stable coins and your platform token is necessary, and to be able to try and attract a sufficient depth of liquidity so that people have a nice experience when swapping tokens. So it's like that slippage doesn't hurt them, or slippage is less, and there's a nice deep liquidity pool to swap into. So things like Bribes, you probably would akin them to things like credit card point programs in the TradFi world, where like banks or companies go, okay, we're going to give you these benefits for helping us grow. And it's a little bit of like not quite the exact same, but it's a similar premise where like we can go to the user and we can say, okay, you know what, there are these beneficial things that would help us grow, that will provide a great service, and allow our ecosystem to thrive, allow the token to be more stable, for people to get better reliability and usability out of it. And when we're obviously paying rewards in the token or whatever, when people come, like whether it's staking rewards or people get governance distributions, but they can go to the market and there's a deep enough liquidity pool for them to be able to access to swap into whatever token they want as easily and without losing anything through slippage. And I suppose that's where the Bribes come in, and we can then go, okay, you know what, like completely through smart contract, you have an understanding of the rewards that are available for you for helping us deepen this liquidity pool, and they're paid out automatically to you on a recurring basis for as long as the smart contract says so. And yeah, like I think it's just a great addition to DeFi. The beauty of DeFi is that like everything everyone builds adds value to each other. I think sometimes like, we lose sight of the collaborative aspect of DeFi, where like everyone ultimately, the aim is just like all the pieces are being built. The beauty of DeFi is it's modular, it's composable, things interact with each other, things work with each other, everything adds its own little bit of value to the space. And yeah, we're just super excited to be able to use what you guys have created and built, to be able to hopefully offer some value to LVN token holders, Levana users, and just, yeah, people might explore us, see like there are some rewards on offer, some of the yield farmers, and just start to hold or explore, hold the token, explore the Levana platform. So yeah, like just happy to get involved, happy to support what you guys are doing. And obviously we view it as very beneficial to just jump in and offer a bribe and see what happens,
Yeah. So just let me break it down in short, so people that might not know much about the Bribes market or the voting market. So Eclipse Fi has built a platform called Equinox. Equinox is a governance aggregator built on top of Astro, quite similar to Convex protocol. What it does is it's accumulated a large amount of voting power, and this voting power allows users to vote on where they want Astro emissions to be redirected every 2 weeks, which is called an epoch. This means that all the emissions that Astroport emits out towards liquidity pools gets directed. Most of it gets basically decided on by votes. Because Equinox has a certain amount of voting power, this is then passed on to Eclipse stakers, which control voting power, and every epoch they can vote through Eclipse to allocate this towards the pools of their choice. Because of the staking and participation dynamics, and the amount of voting power accumulated, it's actually quite efficient to vote through Eclipse, because there's less voters and less voting power than there is the amount of Astro to vote on. So people can control and wield more voting power, if you like, from voting through Equinox. What we've then built on top of that is a bribes market. And this bribes or tributes market allows protocols to come in and offer USDC or offer token incentives towards Eclipse stakers that have voting power, to allow them to essentially earn rewards for voting and redirecting this voting power to pools. So what protocols do is then they make these calculations going, okay, we can spend this many tokens. It's going to be attractive to these users to send Astro emissions to our pools. What this does is it means farmers on Astroport see the higher APRs, higher Astro distributions on the DEX, and then they're more likely to farm and add liquidity to a pool of Levana's choice or the protocol that's bribing. So this gives you a rough idea of how it works. And so what we have talked about behind the scenes is Levana is participating in the bribes market and has decided to open up a bribes pool for one of their pairs. This means that users can redirect their voting power towards that pool and earn bribes, or they can put their funds in a delegation vault, which will weight across a top number of opportunities, a top number of bribe pools, which will redirect that voting power automatically to Levana if Levana is included in that. So I thought I'd give that rough breakdown, but that's the concept of what we're doing together.
No, 100%. And we're happy to be a part of it and to be able to benefit in terms of being able to offer our token in such a way that we can bring more value, A, to DeFi as a whole, and then B, obviously incentivize more people to participate in our LP pools and deepen the liquidity on our end. To make the token swaps, the value a little bit more reliable, sustainable. Super excited to just jump in and use what you guys have built and use what you guys have created. It's a great idea, and we're looking forward to being able to offer it to our community. Actually, the reason we decided or got in touch with someone in our Discord was maybe chatting about the Equinox Bribes program, and we just said, yeah, absolutely, why not? If the community want it, if they see value in it and people would like it, then we're happy to get involved. And I think it's a good approach, generally in this space, to listen to what your users are maybe asking you to do, and at all costs just see if there's a way of incorporating it and see if there's a way of testing it out and trying it and building from there. It's like putting the building blocks in place and just trying new things, jumping into all the new opportunities that are becoming available all the time. And I suppose ultimately also projects supporting each other in the things they are building and creating is important also,
So let's talk a little bit more about Levana, from what is coming up from a building perspective. We've talked about bribes, so this is something that we're doing together. What does Levana currently have live? What chains is it live on? What does it have live from a product perspective? And what can we expect from the roadmap in the near future? So what is coming up for Levana from a product perspective?
Yeah, no, I'd say probably the key thing we're working on and bringing to fruition is copy trading, or of the things that aren't live is copy trading. So obviously, like we were chatting about earlier, some people are not so successful trading. They might see other more successful traders and they might say, well, I wouldn't mind a piece of that. So giving people the opportunity to copy other traders, copy their strategies, and also reward the traders who are being copied with some sort of LVN reward or otherwise is on the roadmap. We've been building it for a little bit, but obviously just trying to test it, make sure it's all working properly before pushing it live. But I think copy trading is definitely something we're excited about bringing forward. A lot of people maybe find jumping in complex, don't want to think about what strategy they're going to employ, don't want to have to worry about risk management or some of these other pieces that are probably pretty critical when you're thinking about like trying to make profit regularly from trading. And they might see profitable traders, whether they follow them on Twitter or whether they just spot them on our leaderboards, and then to be able to go and copy their trades is something we're excited to be able to bring for the average user to simplify the experience of using perp trading to help them benefit from the market. So that's on a feature level, and that's something we're trying to bring forward. We always make like little improvements, whether they're like UI, whether they are back end. Like, you know, we brought a feature live a few months ago where, as I said, like, because the markets are denominated in native tokens, and you know, you might have in your Osmo wallet, you might have some Astro, or you might have some Osmo, or you might have some USDC, and you might visit a market that just is, it's denominated, or its liquidity pool is a different token. And so we just implemented a feature a few months ago, pay with, so you can use any token in your wallet to open the position, and on the back end the swap happens. It's such a simple feature, like, you know, it's not even worth really writing home about or celebrating, but it's just one of those like quality of life improvements that just makes the process a little bit easier. And we're always looking to see like what little improvements we can make that just make the process of going, okay, I see a trade, and how quick and easy can we make it for people between seeing the trade, wanting to open the trade, and being able to open it and execute on it, removing as much friction from the process as possible, and creating as much clarity and transparency in the process as possible. So that's where like the user interface, the way we've designed like the sliders, the way we've designed like the settings of the trade, you know, it's all very clear, all very transparent, very user focused in terms of presenting information clearly and effectively. And then like bring that forward to things like copy trading, where we're like, okay, if someone doesn't even know about trading, how can they jump in and get involved by benefiting from the knowledge of other users, or benefiting from being able to the platform giving people the opportunity to, on a community level, share and benefit from each other's knowledge ultimately. And adding like a little bit of a social element to the trading as well. But aside from those kind of quality of life improvements and just trying to find ways to continuously simplify the trading experience, we're always looking to launch new markets. And we've got a market coming up, launching pretty soon. And Mantra OM, they're going to launch a Perps market in the next week or two, which we're super excited about. And those guys are doing great work on the RWA side of things. So I'm excited to give them the opportunity to launch the market on Levana, and give their token holders another opportunity to use the token in DeFi, and give it another avenue of utility. And then aside from that,
what is happening with, so you're currently live on Osmosis, Injective, Neutron. They kind of got wind down.
100%.
So wait.
Yeah.
What are you guys deploying on Regira? What is the plan? Because I know there was talks a while ago of a merger, like with the token and everything. We're going ahead. What is happening on that front?
100%. We're building Rudy Perps. So we're taking what we built, we're taking the blueprint, the architecture that we built for Levana, and we're adding to that, or enhancing it, or making it compatible. And we're building out Rudy Perps. So we've joined alliances with the Kajira team, with the Thorchain team. Regira is obviously an app layer going live on top of Thorchain, to solve some of the much documented issues that have been occurring over that direction over the last few days or whatever. Look, as I said at the start, like, these technologies are all new, they're all evolving, and people never really know how things play out. And touch wood, the direction that things are going is going to have a good ending. But yeah, like, Regira is essentially coming in. Thorchain is bringing the depth of liquidity, and like, they're unique in the way they cater or allow for native swaps in DeFi. There's no one who really does what they're doing with the amount of liquidity that they have. But essentially, Regira is coming in to help unlock that on top of it. and then Levana are coming in to build Rudy Perps. And LVN holders will have the opportunity to participate in the first, I don't know if you would call it a pre-sale of the Rudy token, but it's a merge. So it's basically like the people who own any of the previous Kuji or many of the previous Kuji ecosystem tokens that they had over there. And there's the likes of Wink, there's the Kuji token itself, and there's a couple of others. LVN, obviously, with us building Rudy Perps, are going to be able to come in, deposit the tokens into the merge contract, and according to the specified conditions, the different holders will have different allocations of Rudy. And it's just not an opportunity. You know, we're building this thing, but we want to give our community the opportunity to participate and get the value from it. So LVN holders, as part of our agreement for building Rudy Perps, will be able to deposit their LVN into the merge contract and get some Rudy right at the start when it goes live. And the beauty of Rudy, I suppose, is the token itself is going to capture revenue from all the apps that are going live on the Ruggiero app layer. So all the apps pay fees back to the Ruggiero app layer, back to Rudy stakers, which I suppose creates a more, if you want to call it, synergistic ecosystem, more collaborative ecosystem, where it's more collaborative over competition, because everybody building on the app layer, everyone building on the app chain, is ultimately there for the same goal, to drive as much value to the chain as a whole, not to their individual apps. So it probably just, hopefully, or that's the thesis, is going to lend to a more kind of collaborative, synergistic ecosystem where people are not trying to just maybe cut the biggest slice of the pie. They're all just collectively trying to bake a bigger pie, if that makes sense. So yeah, excited. We're excited to build it. Look, we're delighted with Levana. We're always trying to improve it, but we're very proud of what we have built, and we're excited to bring it to a new audience and for more people to get use from the perps that we're building on Ruggiero. You know,
let's get in some questions, because I know that we've got, we're pretty short on. We've already gone through almost 15 minutes, and we've got some questions coming in. So if you want to drop questions in the comments, because there might be some more that I haven't seen. But let's get through, I guess, some questions. We'll kind of give like a short answer and see if we can get through a couple. So if it's too technical too, that obviously we can skip and go on to the next. But how does Levana manage price oracles, and what measures do you guys have in place to prevent oracle attacks or oracle price manipulation, if you like?
Yeah, no, for sure. And we use the Pith oracles and integrate them in. And we had an issue at the start or at the end of last year where the way the prices were updating, there was a little bit of inefficiency between the platform and the oracle. But we changed that. Again, I cannot speak to the exact specific technical solution. But essentially, the problem was solved. The inefficiency was patched up. It's been re-audited. So essentially, we use the Pith oracle. It's probably the most reliable oracle, or it's a fantastic product, and being partnered with them allows us to launch lots of different markets. They have they cater with, I think it's over 400 different price feeds, which gives us great versatility as a product, incorporating them as our oracle. We had a little bit last year, towards the end of last year, a problem with inefficiency between the oracle price that was being beamed and the platform's interaction with it. But we have since solved that and been re-audited, and touch wood, no issues since then. But Pith is the oracle. They do a great job for us because they are very seamlessly integrate with. They're designed for DeFi, designed for seamless integration with smart contracts, and they have a wide range of price feeds, which just makes them a great choice for us, and we're happy to work with them.
Yeah. So let me know if some of these questions, I don't know how many of them you're across. Some maybe not. So how does Levana ensure that all perpetual positions are well funded, and what mechanisms are in place to prevent bad debt scenarios?
Yeah, so basically that one's super simple. You cannot open a position if the platform does not have enough liquidity on the back end to pay the to pay the outcome. So essentially, like when you open the position, if you do not set parameters, the platform will like set the maximum parameters, but it will make sure there is always enough liquidity in the platform to pay every single open position. So like, let's say if you open a long on Injective, and let's say whatever price it is now, $14 or something like that, and you set your take profit at $15, and that profit is automatically locked away or pre-allocated as earmarked for this potential gain for this user. And if they're essentially at a certain moment, if there is no more liquidity to pay all open positions and all potential winnings, the platform will no longer be able to accept more open positions. So every single position that's open, there is enough liquidity in the platform to be able to close them. Ultimately, there just is no bad debt.
How do you guys handle liquidations?
I suppose it's just a case of the liquidation price gets hit and the position gets liquidated. It's not there's no kind of advanced or sophisticated, like I think every perps trading platform, or all perps trading, it's a case of you hit the liquidation price and your position needs to be sold to essentially cover your debt, and that's really it. Like,
yeah, I mean, some of them have different. Yeah, I mean, it does vary in terms of like the liquidation mechanisms that they have, but I mean, these other questions are kind of generic. I'm guessing some of these were from Dante. I'm guessing Dante probably dropped 10 questions, or was that a range of other people?
I think there's someone from Levana.
Someone from Levana is dropping some questions.
Yeah. I think actually this one pretty much my question too. Like, how fast can Levana like realistically launch a new market? Because I check out the platform, and pretty amazing that you guys have a number of market. And so like, how quickly can you guys speed it up? And
as long as there is liquidity to open the market, we can theoretically open the market. But there are parameters. As long as we can have sufficient liquidity for people to be able to open trades or provide counter collateral on the market, we can open a market. But the things we obviously try to make sure is integrity of the market is pretty much at the forefront. So we have parameters, and mainly the parameters around liquidity and trading volume on the token itself, to ensure that we are minimizing the opportunity or ability because obviously the Pyth Oracle operates on spot price. So it's a case of like, we want to minimize the ability for people to manipulate the spot price and be able to essentially trigger liquidations to one individual to be able to manipulate the market to their benefit. And to do that, we need to make sure there's sufficient A, liquidity, and B, trading volume. So theoretically, yes, we could launch a perps market for any token, but for the integrity of the markets and to protect users as much as is possible, we obviously just have to make sure that the markets themselves are not susceptible, or at least minimize the opportunity for manipulation of the market. So therefore, to launch one, we have to make sure there's a certain amount of trading volume and liquidity.
Yeah, I mean, this is blue chips. Typically, they have big centralized exchanges, market makers, and sufficient depth and volume across multiple venues is usually what you look at. When you try and list smaller assets, you run into a world of hurt when it comes to this sort of stuff. So, I mean, some people manage.
Sorry, go on.
Some perps manage to list like very nascent tokens, like new meme coins and things like that. But for the most part, it's better off sticking to like major assets. And I can speak from experience trading on things like Drift and stuff. Like, as soon as you get out of like the top assets, there just usually isn't enough liquidity to really trade an asset properly with perps. Like, even on Drift, I remember like you can kind of maybe trade Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin. Get into like AVAX, XRP, you start getting hit with slippage, right? Like, you start getting smashed. I know it's a different mechanism, obviously, and it's different to how Levana works. Some have more like hyper liquid But then I'm sure with Levana, like there's probably like a number of pools that are deep enough to have big trades, but there's probably like some pairs that just don't have a lot of liquidity to be able to,
Yeah, and our mission is to ultimately be able to allow people to spin up a perps market for any asset, but that is easier said than done, and there's a lot of work that would need to be done to ensure that that could be done safely and effectively. And that, though that is the mission, like that is ultimately baked into the name, like Levana leverage any asset. Like it obviously, we would just need to make sure that like whatever mechanisms we would allow for people to open the markets would be such that every market that could possibly be opened would mitigate the opportunities. There's probably different things you could do in terms of limiting position sizes, limiting leverage levels, and that would at least to some degree mitigate the impact. But still, I suppose right now the most reliable way of being able to ensure that markets stay reliable and have integrity is, as you were saying, big listings, big volume, big liquidity.
You'd almost have to use some kind of, I don't know how you can really do this, but you'd have to have some kind of, some kind of moving average for like big moves or something like that. Like, because one of the issues is like big wicks, right, on a spot exchange would be like someone dumping a ton, hunting stops and then coming back. So you'd want some kind of mechanism that like would cancel out like big moves or like take average price as opposed to normal. But you can't really do that with perps because people are still using the spot price to determine like the trades. But if you think about like how you think through, listing assets that are maybe less liquid, there's got to be a couple of different mechanisms to be able to manage that.
Yeah, no, 100%, but it would have to be more creative than probably the way it would work for bigger assets, because it couldn't be done that reliably with some of the avenues for like manipulation on assets that don't have the liquidity or volume. No, 100%. I'm probably not the man that's going to devise that specific solution, but it's definitely an interesting thought to potentially, and it is our mission ultimately and eventually to allow people to be able to launch a perps market on Levana the same way they would launch an LP on Uniswap. And if we can find a way to do that, then that's ultimately the goal. People have sometimes talked about exact same thing or a very similar thing to maybe as you were alluding to there, perps markets for NFTs and stuff like this. But like that would just get absolutely crazy, like, in terms of like people would like list absolutely short things and then like list on the floor, like just absolutely floor their NFTs to drive down the price and then liquidate everyone. So perps markets and launching them are for assets are way more complicated than just getting the liquidity and launching the market. You have to make sure that essentially the price is as robust to manipulation as possible to protect users as much as possible,
Okay, so one last question. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up, but maybe one last question, which is a short one. Is Levana going to deploy on the hub? So is there plans, or maybe that's alpha, but is there plans to deploy on the hub? Or are you going to be mostly focused on Regira?
We're always looking to deploy wherever there is demand and wherever there are users. Jonathan mainly handles most of that stuff. So he's kind of like chatting to people and figuring out how we can build, how we can grow, how we can develop, how we can position ourselves to attract new audiences and new users. But yeah, like I don't see why we wouldn't. Like as I said, like the beauty of DeFi, the beauty of what we're all building is that it's modular, it's composable. I don't think any of us should be necessarily absolutely stuck to building in one singular. We're building for users ultimately. So if there's an ability to go somewhere and capture more users and capture more liquidity and enhance the product and give people a better experience, then I don't see why not. It's definitely not out of the question. But I suppose that is probably something that is not set in stone or decided on yet. But yeah, I don't see why not. It's just a case of building where the users are and building where the demand is. And what we're just focused on is delivering the best Perps platform that we can possibly deliver and giving people the best experience they possibly can when they come to trade. Hopefully win more money than they lose, but statistically that's not so likely.
Yeah, it makes sense. Look, I think we're pretty ready to wrap up, but maybe like a TLDR of what we're doing together is Levana is going to be bribing a pool on Equinox. And so if you are a voter on Equinox, you're going to be able to allocate your votes to the Levana pool, which should show soon, I believe, and be able to receive bribes, or you'll be able to add to the delegation vault as well, which is I'm just finalizing some testing. So I believe the call is by the end of the week. It's been a little bit delayed, but by the end of the week, I think we should ideally have these the delegation vault and a new front end for the votes and bribes live, which will actually make it a lot easier to see what kind of bribes you're getting and everything like that. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for joining us, JB, and I look forward to us working together in the future, potentially seeing you guys deploying on the hub, and many more collaborations to come as well.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for inviting us on. Thanks for a great chat. Always love talking about these things. Sorry I couldn't answer some of the more intricate questions. But yeah, like appreciate what you guys are doing. Looking forward to working together and pushing everything forward. Let's just keep doing our part and seeing where things go.
Nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, appreciate everyone. This
Thanks,
was
guys.
a team session. Nice.
See you on the
Catch you.
next one. We're doing more of these now.
Catch.